The lawyers who tried to help Trump overturn the 2020 election are facing repercussions one by one. The latest is Jeffrey Clark. The D.C. disciplinary arm of the bar has just recommended disbarment and an automatic suspension of his law license. It now goes to the D.C. Court of Appeals to decide whether or not he will be permanently disbarred, his law license taken away, as a result of what he said not to a court, but to the Department of Justice, his effort to get the Department of Justice to lie about the election. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Let's break this down. So in part, one of the really important things about this is that this isn't a lie that he made to court. Lawyers have professional ethics and responsibilities. We have a law license. You can have a hard time even getting a law license if you have had like a fraudulent conviction in your past before you went to law school. You're not going to get a law license. And then once you get a law license, it can be removed if you take certain actions. The DC bar made it very clear that lawyers are expected to be honest. And when you are not, you are subject to having your law license removed, not only because of the damage you have done, in this case, Jeffrey Clark, but the damage you do to the profession and the way you encourage, frankly, other lawyers to be dishonest if you as a lawyer are dishonest. But he did not lie in court. So many of the other lawyers that were involved or disbarred had lies to the court. It's very obvious. That's a fraud. You can't lie to a court. That's like your whole role as a lawyer is to speak to a judge and present your evidence honestly. But in this case, his lie was the Department of Justice, where he worked. So to, you could say, his colleagues, to his boss, to people that worked for him. And the reason why this is so important, especially during this second term of Trump, is this is a warning, let's say, to all the lawyers, many of which are lawyers that work now in the Trump administration, not only, of course, the Department of Justice, which is all lawyers, but lawyers who work across his cabinet. And are they asking their colleagues to lie? Are they asking their colleagues to put out false statements to the public? What about the ICE agents who are not showing warrants, not showing their faces, doing things that may not be legal? What about Kristi Noem, who is directing them to do things that are not legal? Or over and over and over again, we are seeing Trump and his cabinet and even some rank and file employees act as if the law doesn't apply to them. And this is a warning that there is at least a professional licensing organization that is going to keep track of what people say and do. This has frankly taken a long time, right? This is from 5 years ago. We can be frustrated at how long due process sometimes goes, but everyone is entitled to due process, and we're seeing how important that due process is. But maybe the timing is exactly right, because as we see right now, the weaponization of the Department of Justice and what's happening with the Abrego Garcia case, what's happening with the DOJ memo telling lawyers that they should go after and try to denaturalize people based on their personal opinions. They are directing and enabling, let's say, DOJ lawyers from doing things that are not above board, for being dishonest. These lawyers, many of them are just career lawyers and actually care about their jobs, actually care about those careers, the 3 years they went to law school, all of the many years afterwards. When you lose your law license, you lose the ability to provide an income for you or your family based on the profession you have worked your entire life for. So this bar wasn't just saying, hey, you went in court and lied. You're saying you were advocating for a lie, even within the Department of Justice. And this is what they said specifically about what he did and why they were recommending him for disbarment and, as of now, automatic suspension. about lawyers. They said, quote, at a minimum, they must be honest. While dishonesty is always intolerable, the facts here are significantly aggravating to warrant disbarment. Respondent was prepared to cause the Justice Department to tell a lie about the status of its investigation of an important national issue, the integrity of the 2020 presidential election. Lawyers cannot advocate for any outcome based on false statements, and they certainly cannot urge others to do so. Respondent persistently and energetically sought to do just that on an important national issue. He should be disbarred as a consequence, and to send a message to the rest of the bar and to the public that this behavior will not be tolerated. And I can think of many examples, and who knows what else is going to come out or come to the future, where President Trump is trying to get his enablers, or maybe his enablers want to make false statements in order to urge others to maybe speak to the public or take an action in relation to the public. That is wrong and that is false. And of course, as you know, Jeffrey Clark was the person that Trump had thought about elevating to the position of Attorney General as the Department of Justice because he wanted the Department of Justice to lie about the election. He did not do that in part because of a fear that he would have a similar situation as Nixon when the special prosecutor was fired by the Nixon administration. They had the Saturday Night Massacre where a lot of Department of Justice people quit. That is basically why Jeffrey Clark did not get elevated to the Attorney General position. But he is right now in Trump's administration. His position is he is the acting head of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. So this man, this impartial bar association, non-political, whose sole purpose is to make sure the lawyers act in a way that is consistent with the professional responsibility and ethics and the oath that we took. He is now in charge, in part, in overseeing and writing and helping to review regulations, the laws of the agencies. How should agencies be regulated? What kind of regulations should they follow? What kind of regulations should they enact? Regulations are how laws are carried out. So this person who they have decided is so unethical, basically, he shouldn't be a lawyer, is in this position, in this administration. This is how inept, unqualified, corrupt, especially right now with the Epstein scandal and questions about the files and redactions. Hopefully, the enablers, the cohorts, the allies remember that presidential immunity that Supreme Court set out doesn't apply to everybody, just the president. And of course, Jeffrey Clark is still under indictment for his actions related to the 2020 election, trying to overturn the 2020 election. He's still indicted in Georgia. He still has more consequences to face, as will anybody who tries to break the law for Trump. And it's not just him. As I said, lawyers one by one, Rudy Giuliani, as we know, was disbarred. John Eastman has been suspended and is fighting disbarment in California. Jenna Ellis, his campaign attorney, we know that she has a 3-year law suspension in Colorado. Kenneth Chesborough, he lost his law license in New York, one by one. If you decide to break your oath, your ethics responsibility, we are seeing consequences. And every time there's a consequence, this could help contain what Trump wants to do, because it requires, most of what he wants to do requires rank and file employees across all agencies, not just the Department of Justice, to follow through with his lawlessness. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Be sure to free subscribe so you can get updates on this story and many more to come.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA Union made.